So here we created this variable called base URL on an environment. So we can have different scopes for creating variables. So this is an environment variable, and we have initial value and current value as same initially. So we have to just now use this. If we want to use this here, so we had a URL. So this exact URL, we go and set that to this variable. We can do like this set variable, and it shows the initial and current value. So initially it's the same, we set this. Now we can just use this. So here we can set the environment. So it shows the variable value according to that environment. So we can use this variable now for all of these without having to use the complete URL. And there are different scopes for creating variables. So this is an environment level scope. A local scope would be a scope on a particular request. So for example, this is one request to add a book. So if we can also create a variable on just that request. We can also create variables on a particular collection. So here we have this library collection. We can create we can create variables on this. We can also create global variables that can be used for any collection in any environment in a workspace. And if there are same variable is created, um, for example, for different scopes, so there is an order of preference or local variable will be given the most preference, and after that environment collection, and then the global scope variable. And we have to just use this URL here. So this initial value and current value should be same right now. And when we run this, so this will get successfully added. And also we have to run on both of these environments to add a book in both, because there would be different data, different database for different environments. Now we have scripting. So in Postman, we can write some scripts to run before a request or after a response that we can use to test our APIs, test and validate our APIs. So this is a pre-request script and test script and or post request script. So we can write both of these as a method to test our APIs. So this pre-request script will run before the request is sent, and after the response after the request is sent, we will have this test script API, test script that will run. So this is based on JavaScript, and inside Postman we can use this. We can add behavior to requests and collections, so we can get information out of the request. For example, we have this post response script here. So for example, if we want to see if the status code is 200, so we have this object called PM. This is for Postman. This is used to access the request and response. So every time we write a script, we will have to use this pm, and then we have these commands, the JavaScript packages that we can use here. So pm.test, we have this here, we write whatever message, and then we have this function, and inside of this we write a script. We have these different assertions that we can use. So pm dot response to have status 200. So 200 is the success status. If we want this, we can write it like this. So if we run send this request, and if it a success, so in test result this will display this message, and this test result will pass. And then, for example, if we want to see this message in the response body that we get, we want to validate that. So if we just write pm dot response and to have property message, this will give an error because we are checking the objects here, and this message is inside of this JSON body. So first we have to store this in a constant. We take a constant and we store this pm dot response dot JSON. So we pass the JSON body here to this constant that we can then use here with this pm dot expect. So we have this different assertion for this pm dot expect, and inside that we pass this JSON data, this constant, and then to have property, and then we pass this in double quotes, we pass the this message. So this will get the message from inside of the JSON body. So we can use expect to see a value inside the JSON body in the response. So we will see the test result here if it is a success. And now, for example, we want to see the message. What is the message? So if the book is already added, we get the message of that. And otherwise, if it is a unique book, we get successfully added message. So we can write this pm.expect JSON data dot message, and then we can write this to equal, and we can pass the message here. So if it is a new unique book, this will be printed. Otherwise, this will not. This will give an error. And we can also check this on console, like what is the error that we are getting. And we also have this pre-request. Now, for example, till now uh, we were giving this body, and here we were writing the ISBN. This is hard coded right now. So we have to change the ISBN every time we have to pass a new book. So if we want that to be automatic, so we need to create a dynamic variable that will create a new ISBN for to pass a new book every time we make a request, instead of writing a new ISBN every time we add a new book. So for that, we will create a global variable because we want this for every environment. So whenever we add a new book, it successfully adds that, and it dynamically creates a new ISBN code every time. So here on environments, we go to global. So this is the global environment here. Here we create a new variable company code and we give the initial and current value to rs, and then we write the script here. So we write a pre-request now. So this will be sent before the request. So we do console.log pm.globals. So this is calling from the global environment. Now dot get. So we get a variable, get a value from a variable. We use this dot get and then pass the variable name. And then we store this inside a new constant which is called code. So if we just run this, we'll get an error, but we can see that we passed the rs here. So a variable name we can use, and now on that variable name we can use this replace in. And now if we want a random integer, every time we write we add make a new request to add a book, we get a random integer added to the isbn with the initial value rs, which is set by us as a variable. So we use this dollar sign random end inside of this double curly braces, because this is how we use the variable name here also. We have to use double curly braces like this to use a variable. And then here we create a variable on our collection. So since we are using this ISBN on our collection, so we create a new variable. So we take this rs which is the company code variable, and we add the random integer. We set both of these to these two constants when we create code and one as well. Now we have to add these to create a random ISBN with this rs plus a random integer. So for that, to pass in the request, we have to create a new variable here to pass into this body, because we had a hard coded ISBN code here. So we cannot just simply add this and write here. We have to pass it into a new variable. We create a new variable on a collection called ISBN, and we add these and pass into that. We use dot set here. So we use dot get a variable value. Now we are using this value and setting into a variable. And then after that, in a body, we update the ISBN with again this double curly braces, and inside that we add a variable name. So when we run this, we get this id rs, and this is our IL number 227 that we have written here, and this is a random integer that we get. So every time we make a request here, this now random integer will update, and we have a new successfully added book here every time we get this message now. So we can have a lot of assertions here. For example, now if we want to validate our header response time, so we create a new assertion here pm.test. We have this message headers, cookies, and response time validation. We have the function, and inside the function we write this first pm.response to have header. So here we have these headers. So this content type First, if we want to validate that response to have header content type, so we can validate that like this, if it is present in the header or not. And then to go inside of that, just like we used expect here, we can to go into inside the JSON body, we can use expect here to go inside this header, which is content type. So pm.response.headers in dot get content type. We pass the header name here in double quotes, and then dot to dot equal, just like before. We have to pass this whatever is written here in the content type. We pass this inside to validate the exact header that we are getting here. Now to validate the response time, so we have this response body, and inside of this we have the response time here. So now again we have to use expect pm.expect, then pm.response, and inside that we have the response time to be below. For example, we write 2000 milliseconds here. So here we have 172 milliseconds. For example, we want to validate and we have to test the response, how fast we are getting the response. We can put a certain value here. If a next request response is above that, we will get an error here. Otherwise, it will be a success. And then the response text, again we will use expect. We have to get this message successfully added. Response.text to and to include. So we can use these different assertions. Now when we make a request, we get this test result here. First is passed, and then the second one is also passed. All the all the assertions that we made passed. So it is validated like this.